Well, good afternoon. We're continuing on with the subject, the commentary on the book of Genesis. We're up to chapter 21. And this is the promise of the birth of the son, Isaac. The first verse is a promise. And the Lord visited Sarah as he said, and the Lord did unto Sarah as he had promised. In the previous chapter, Abraham prayed to God, and God healed the wombs of all of the women in Abimelech's household so that they could bear children. And then the Lord fulfills his promise to Abraham that he would have a son from his wife Sarah in their old age, and that they were to call his son Isaac, which means laughter or rejoicing. Therefore, pray for someone else so that you can receive a blessing. Fulfilled promise. For Sarah conceived and bare a son in his old age to Abraham, at the set time that he had spoken of him. Here we see God honouring his promise to both Abraham and to Sarah, that she would conceive and bear a son in her old age. When God says something, he means exactly what he says. Verse 3 is a fulfilled promise. And Abraham called the name of his son that was born unto him, whom Sarah bare to him, Isaac. Abraham would have been asking for trouble from God if he had named the child anything else, because it means laughter and or rejoicing. Then a fulfilled commandment. And Abraham circumcised his son Isaac, being 8 days old, as God had commanded him. It is important to obey God in the little things as well as in the big things, because God would not have made this a commandment unless it was important to him. Fulfilled promise. And Abraham was 100 years old when his son was born unto him. God always honours his promises. He told Abraham he would have a son from his wife Sarah in his old age, and God delivered on his promise. And Sarah said, God has made me to laugh, so that all who hear will laugh with me. This is a Hebrew play on words. Isaac means to laugh, or to rejoice. God has made me to laugh, so that all who hear me will rejoice with me. And she said, who would have said unto Abraham that Sarah would have given children to suckle? For I have borne him a son in his old age. From earthly wisdom, it is unlikely that anyone would say this. But God is able to do what is impossible for mankind. He can make barren women have children. And he continually performs this miracle throughout the scriptures. We have Hannah, we have the wife of Manoah, we have Elizabeth, we have Mary, just to list four examples. And the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast the same day that Isaac was weaned. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, which he had borne unto Abraham, mocking them. Verse 10, wherefore she said unto Abraham, cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be an heir with my son, even with Isaac. This is where all of the fighting and hatred starts in the Middle East. The descendants of Ishmael still believe that as Ishmael was the first son born to Abraham, that he was entitled to a double portion of the inheritance of all that belonged to Abraham. They refused to accept God's decision that the line of promise was to pass through Isaac and not through Ishmael. Many did not even know that God promised to Abraham that the descendants of Ishmael would become a great nation. Hence the fighting continues, fulfilling the prophecy and the promise that there will always be enmity between the descendants of Ishmael and the descendants of Isaac. Verse 11, and the thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight because of his son. It is very hard for any father to have to cast his son away, to disown him. Think about it. Would you be prepared to disown your son, if you have one? Verse 12, it's a promise. And God said unto Abram, Let it not be grievous in thy sight because of the lad, and because of the bondwoman. In all that Sarah has said unto you, hearken unto her voice. For in Isaac shall your seed be called. Sarah is reminding Abraham of a previous promise given by God to them, that the line of descendants shall be through Isaac, not through Ishmael. This is so that there are no impurities in the bloodline by descendants from another tribe. There is a reason why the inheritance is through Isaac and not through Ishmael. Because Isaac is the bloodline of Abraham and Sarah, who are half-sisters and brother. Whereas Ishmael is the line of Abraham and an Egyptian woman, a different tribe, different bloodlines. Verse 13, And also of the son of the bondwoman will I make a nation, because he is thy seed. So God gave this promise that there would be another nation for Ishmael. This promise was fulfilled in 1900, when King Saud brought all of the nomadic Arabian tribes together to form the nation of Saudi Arabia, which has become a great nation. Fulfilled promise. And Abraham rose up early in the morning and took bread and a bottle of water and gave it unto Hagar, putting it on her shoulder and the child Ishmael, and sent her away. And she wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. Abraham obeyed the word of the Lord and listened to the words of Sarah to send Hagar away. As head of the household, it was his responsibility to send her away, even though she was Sarah's maidservant. Verse 15, And the water was spent in the bottle, and she cast her child aside under the shrub. She put her only child Ishmael under a bush, so that he could die there. And all of this while the hate against Abraham and Sarah would have begun building up. And she went and sat down over against him, a good way off, as it were a bowshot distance away. For she said unto herself, Let me not see the death of the child. And she sat over against him and lifted up her voice and wept. And God heard the voice of the lad, and the angel of God called out to Hagar out of the heaven, and said unto her, What ails thee, Hagar? Fear not, for God has heard the voice of the lad. Where is he? Notice that Hagar cried out, but God did not hear her voice. He heard the voice of Ishmael, and then calls out to Hagar. Verse 18 is a promise and a command. Arise, lift up the lad, and hold him up in your hands, for I will make him a great nation. Again, confirming again this promise. God made a promise to the descendants of Ishmael. He would become a great nation. This promise was fulfilled in 1900, when King Saud brought all of the nomadic Arabian tribes together to form the nation of Saudi Arabia, a great nation. Notice that God made them a great nation in 1900, before Israel was re-established a nation on the 14th of May 1948. But already this land was given to the Jews as an eternal covenant. Verse 19, And God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water, and she went and filled the bottle of water, and gave the lad a drink. Verse 20 is a promise, And God was with the lad, and he grew and dwelt in the wilderness, and became an archer. So, as an archer, he learnt the methods of concealment and stealth, and developed the skills of bowing accuracy, which were all good skills to become a warrior. And he dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took him a wife out of the land of Egypt. So now his offspring will have one part Abraham and 2 parts Egyptian in his DNA. Because his mother was Egyptian, and now his wife is Egyptian. So the children will have 1 part Abraham, 2 parts Egyptian. And it came to pass at that time that Abimelech and Phicol, the chief captain of his host, spoke to Abraham, saying, God is with you in all that you do. It was evident from Abraham's witness that God was with him in everything he did. Conclusion. This is verse 23. Now therefore swear unto me here by God, that you will not deal falsely with me, nor with my son, nor with my son's son, that is my grandson, but according to the kindness that I have done unto thee. You shall do unto me, and to the land where you have sojourned. Here was a pagan king asking Abraham to swear on his God that he would not deal falsely with him or his son or his grandson, nor the land in which he was freely given permission to roam. Verse 24, and Abraham said, I will swear. Notice that Abraham swears the oath before reproving Abimelech. Now in verse 25, and Abraham reproved Abimelech because of a well of water, which Abimelech's servants had violently taken away from them. Now Abraham accuses Abimelech's servants of stealing a well, which he and his servants had dug, and had commandeered the water supply thereof. Verse 26, and Abimelech said, I know not who has done this thing, neither did you tell me, neither yet heard I of it until today. Abimelech replied, I have no clue who has done this, and you did not inform me of this until today. And Abraham took sheep and oxen and gave them to Abimelech, and both of them made a covenant. And that covenant was made in the presence of Phicol, the chief captain of the king's host. And Abraham set 7 ewe lambs of the flock out by themselves. Abimelech said unto Abraham, what is the meaning of these 7 ewes, which you have set out by themselves? What is the meaning of this strange thing that you have done, by setting aside 7 ewe lambs? And Abraham answered, For these 7 ewe lambs shall be you take off my hands, that they may be a witness unto me, that I have digged this well. This is a witness offering, that you know now and agree that I have dug this well. Wherefore he called the place Beersheba, because there they swear both of them. Beersheba means the well of the oath. Whenever that name is mentioned in Hebrew, it reminds the people that this is the well of the oath. Ironically, when the Australian Light Horse captured this well in World War I, they probably did not recognize the historical significance of this achievement. Thus they made a covenant at Beersheba. Then Abimelech rose up, and Phicol, the chief captain of his host, and they returned into the land of the Philistines. Notice, it is the land of the Philistines, not the land of the Palestinians. Verse 33, and Abraham planted a grove of trees in Beersheba, and called there on the name of the Lord, the everlasting God. And Abraham sojourned in the Philistines' land many days.